Hello everyone. I'm doing a spooky tag today, so that was my kind of spooky voice. I hope that was conveyed through the tone of my voice. Anyway, I'm going to do a I can't even say that, a paranormal tag today. No one tagged me. I never get tagged for any of these videos. I just do them because I like the questions and I think it's kind of fun to share them with you guys. But, again, this isn't really an ASMR topic per se, but I'm going to answer in a soft-speaking voice to transform it into ASMR, hopefully. So, I think it's about 15 questions, thereabouts. So it has a lot to do with ghosts and paranormal activities and that kind of thing, and a couple Halloween questions, I think. So we'll see where it takes us, because I haven't really thought about any of the answers. Okay. And if you want to do this tag, as always, I'd love to hear your answers. So, yeah, just share your video with me or share your answers for this tag. If you do it yourself, then that'd be great. Okay. So, number 1, do you believe in ghosts? I do. There's really no hard evidence that I have that they exist, but I do believe in them. I think that life and beyond is just too mystical to not have ghosts. So yes, I believe there are ghosts. The next question is if yes, have you ever seen one? I've never seen one, though as we get further into a tag, there's another question where I haven't seen one technically, but I'll find out later. Okay, number 3. Do you think we have souls? Yes. I don't know what form they take. I do think there is an energy inside of us, and it's essentially our soul. So yes, I do. Number 4. Do you believe in aliens? Yes. And for one simple reason. I think that the universe is too large. There are too many planets, too many solar systems, all that fun stuff, to think that we're alone. I just don't think that we're the only planet that is inhabited. I just don't. The 5th question, have you had any paranormal experiences? Okay, this is where I'm going to talk about my not technically seeing ghosts, but having a weird occurrence. Okay, so many years ago, probably about 7, 8 years ago, I was at someone's house and I was chatting with them, and it was a friend's house, and she was doing something. We were in, I think, her daughter's room, and she was cleaning up the room or something, and she kind of had her back to me, and we were chatting, and as I was standing there, I had my back to her daughter's closet, which was kind of partly open, and there was no one else in the house. It was just she and I think all of her 2 kids, I think at the time, were both at school. And as I was standing there with my back to the closet, all of a sudden I felt something hit me in the leg. And so I looked down at my foot, and it was a hanger from the closet. And I looked back at the closet thinking, okay, that's like really bizarre. And the hangers were still moving. They were still kind of like shaking, but it wasn't like a flimsy hanger where it could have just fallen off. I mean, they were like tightly on there. There wasn't much clearance between the hanger kind of rod and the the top of the closet. So something had to have like physically thrown it at me because I was a good ways away from the closet too. So I told her, I said, well, what just happened? And she kind of brushed it off. She got sidetracked with something else, but I never really found out what happened. I never found out like how the hanger ended up at my feet or hitting me or anything. And I brought it up, I think, one other time after that with her, like, hey, remember what happened, like when that hanger hit me? And again, she kind of brushed it off. So I don't know if it was like some kind of weird thing that happened in her house and she didn't want to talk about it or what the case was, but it was just really bizarre. And I don't think it would have like made such an impact on me, but it was just so strange how it happened, and it was like there was no explanation for it at all. And there's been other little weird things that have happened over the course of the years. Like I've heard footsteps, even here in this house, I've heard footsteps kind of coming up the hallway. And then I've looked and nothing's been there. Just things like that. And it's nothing alarming and nothing altogether like terrifying, but just little things like that. And I think that's pretty much it. Okay. And then the next question was, if you have had paranormal experiences, do you find it hard to convince others? I really don't feel the need to convince others. If they believe me, fine. If not, it's not that big a deal. I know it happened, and I can't even explain it. I'm not convinced it even happened. I don't know. It's just, it's one of those things where I don't feel the need to convince others about things. I just don't. Okay, and the next question is, do you celebrate Halloween? Absolutely. I love Halloween. It is my second favorite holiday. A close tie for first. Or very close to first. So I definitely celebrate Halloween. I love it. I just love the kind of spookiness of it, and just the fact that it is a fall holiday. I love that too. So the next question is, what is your favorite thing about Halloween? I guess just the atmosphere that it has with it. The kind of emotions it has tied to it, just kind of mysterious, and I don't know. I like the fact that it kind of ties into candy too. That doesn't hurt. But yeah, I love Halloween. I'm just remembering as I'm talking to you guys about this, about how I've only been to like one Halloween party in my life. I'm not, as you know, I'm not a party person, and I almost drowned in like a thing popping for apples. I somehow that they had like this big thing of, I remember I was dressed up as an angel, I want to say, and they had this big thing of which is ironic, but they had this big bobbing for apples barrel thing, and kind of like a vat, and somehow I fell in, or somebody pushed me in, or something happened, and I'm not good around water to begin with, so I was just recalling that as I was talking to you guys about it. It's like, oh my gosh. That's why I don't think why I never went to a Halloween party again, honestly. Okay, what is your favorite paranormal TV show or movie? Trying to think. I think my favorite paranormal movie would be The Others, which I talked about in my like my favorite movie video. And I'm trying to think of my favorite paranormal TV show. It would have to be American Horror Story, because a lot of that has to do with ghosts and paranormal activities and stuff like that. So definitely, I think that those two. Next question is, are you afraid of the paranormal? I think I'm more fascinated by it, but there are certain things that do scare me. I think just It's funny. I don't want to jinx it and say, oh no, I'm not at all afraid of the paranormal, and then have something happen to me and be like, I am terrified. And I brought this on myself by saying I wouldn't be afraid, kind of thing. But it more fascinates me, I guess. The next question is, have you ever used a Ouija board? And I have. It was a while back, but I have, and nothing really happened. I think it was my friend moving the little, I forgot what it's called, like a little viewfinder thing, but yeah. The Ouija board does make me nervous because I think it does hold some kind of power, so yeah. The next question is, if you haven't used a Ouija board, would you? And I've already answered that I did, so. Next question. I don't even know what number this is. Do you have any paranormal dreams? Okay, I'm going to say this, but I don't want to freak you guys out. I'm a bit empathic. I can kind of sense emotions, and by kind of, I mean really sense emotions. I can, if I'm in the same room with someone, I might do a video dedicated to this, in fact, because I think it's a really interesting topic, but if I'm in the same room with someone, I can sense what they're feeling. If there's tension, I can feel the tension. If they're sad, I feel sad, and it can be a little hard to control because, for instance, pretty much anything my husband feels, I feel, even if he's not saying anything, and or even if I don't even know how he feels. He hasn't said anything verbally. So it can get a bit tricky trying to just shut that out. And I don't know if I've told you guys recently, but I used to do a lot of work in the holistic healing field before I became a full-time writer, and it was very hard in that field because it was kind of a lot of energy exchange, and that was very difficult. But I have had a couple dreams throughout my life, though, that were really the only thing, other than being empathic. I think my dreams are kind of the thing that, it's kind of not a gift, I'm not going to say it's a gift, but I can sometimes see what's going to happen in dreams. It sounds really weird. I just say this because I've had several dreams throughout my life where I've dreamt them, and then a few days later it will actually occur what happened in my dreams. The first time I remember this happening was when I was about 8. It was right before my parents got divorced, and I was standing in our living room, and I was looking out the window, and a man walked by the window, and he was very suspicious looking. And I remember thinking at that moment, I had just dreamt that several nights ago. I had dreamt the man exactly as he looked, to a T, like he was the man I had dreamt of. And it wasn't like one of those things where I thought, oh, kind of like hindsight is 2020, like, oh yeah, I dreamt that, and he looked exactly like that. No, I remember everything about him from that dream. And there's been several other things that have happened throughout my life where I've dreamt them before they happened. And it might have even been a symbolic thing where I'll realize after the fact, like, oh my gosh, that was that dream I had, that kind of thing. And sometimes I will get strange feelings if something's about to happen. There's been a few times where my husband, he works from home now. He does work at home, like freelance work like I do, in a different field though. But when he did have a job, there were a couple of times where he was about to go to work, and I tell him, no, just don't go to work. Like, I feel like this deep kind of like need for him to not go to work, and usually you don't know what's going to happen if you did go to work, because you can't track that. You can't say, oh, I told you so. But there was one time where he didn't go, and something bad did happen in his work. So I'm not saying I'm at all like psychic. I might be a little bit, I don't know. I think we're all psychic to some degree, but you know, we have an extra sense that we don't tap into a lot, but those are really the only weird things other than dreams that I've had. But if you guys have had any experiences like that, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. And if you'd like to hear a little bit more about, like if you'd like me to do a video on empathy, I think it's a really interesting topic, so just let me know. Okay, next thing. Do you know anyone who's had a paranormal experience? Ooh, you know, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that people don't really like to talk about because they think that someone will think they're crazy or something, but I mean, as a kid, there were a couple people that I used to talk to that said that they had different, I can't even remember what it was, but different experiences. But I don't think I've spoken to anyone recently who's had one. The last one. Are there any places that you think are scary or paranormal, anything of that nature? You know, I think there are places in the world that just have a certain energy attached to them. And I think those are really kind of the scary and paranormal places, if something has happened there or it just has a negative energy. And I can usually pick up on that, which comes in handy when you're like house hunting or when you're looking, you know, for a place to live. Because there's been places that I've walked into and I walked right back out and said, I'm not living here. There's something weird about this place. And I don't remember if I know I told you guys, but it was a while ago. When I was a child, we lived in a house where it was a family friend's house and she killed herself. And afterward, we still continued to live in the house, which I don't think was a wise choice of my parents at all or my mom at all. But anyway, I digress. After that, the energy in the house completely changed and it was just almost unbearable to be around. It was just really hard. Not just because of what had happened there, but just the energy had changed. It was just very strange. So I think it's all about kind of the energy of a place that makes it scary. And I don't know if there's any place I necessarily think of right away when I think of scary or paranormal. I think I don't know. I think there's plenty of places that have a little bit of a spooky atmosphere, but yeah, like I said, I think it's just the energy. Okay, that's it. I hope you all don't think I'm crazy. I'm really not loony, I promise. A little bit. But if any of you would like to do this, I'd love to hear your answers. I really would. So I hope you're all doing wonderfully, and I'll talk to you soon.